What is up, players? WarBossTae up in this mud. Welcome to how to paint a sister of Avelorn. Oh, I just saw that I have to do this little gem at the end. The last thing we did before I finished the video is paint on all the reds for the gems. So, missed one. Basically, we're doing everything up to here. So base coats and a wash on some of the things. So the colors you're gonna need are Flesh, Coelia Green Shade, Russ Gray, Balthazar Gold, Dryad Bark, not yet, Seraphim Sepia, Raglan Flesh Shade, Corn Red, Girly Mountain Blue, Steel Legion Drab, Lead Belcher, didn't do that yet, White Scar, I'm trying to look at the paints around me, Abaddon Black, Doombull Brown, and I think that was it, yeah? Yeah, das was it. Oh, no, this one. Temple Guard Blue for the bow. So this is how far we get. Oh no, I missed one too. Cadian Flesh Tone for the skin. So this is how far we get. Base colors, a little bit of a wash, and yeah. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Stay tuned for more. Part 2, we're going to be hopefully finishing up and getting her to look just like this test model that I did. Hope you guys stay tuned and enjoy part 1. Latest players. Alright players, what up, and welcome to part 1 of how to paint a Sister of Avelorn. So the reason I decided to use this model is because it is it's got an open front, so you can really see how to paint the torso area, and the bow is still kind of pretty dominant, so you can tell how to do all of the bow areas as well. If anything, you don't have the arrow part of the bow, but I'll teach you how to do the arrow if you're also working on doing an arrow. So I'm just going to kind of go willy-nilly and see if you can follow. The first thing I like to do is paint on the skin. So I've come up with a concoction that I call Lady Elf skin tone, I guess. So what you're going to do is you're going to take White Scar, Skull White, and Cadian Flesh Tone. That's old school, Grandpa. Nobody paints with White Skull anymore. And what you're going to do is you're going to do, what was it? 1 part White Scar to 1 part Cadian Flesh Tone. So what that means is you're going to mix them, preferably in a wet palette, if you can make one, or get a wet palette. And in fact, why don't I make one right now? See if I can find a empty little. There we go. So this will be my wet palette for today. I'm just gonna use this side of the this little case that I've got. Put some water in it, and let's make a ghetto wet palette, since I don't think I have any parchment paper with me right now. So we're gonna make a ghetto wet palette simply by taking a napkin or paper towel and just putting it right in there and get all that water nice and soaked up. A little bit more water. Oops. Yeah, and you want it wet enough so that it's wet to the touch, but that if you press it, water doesn't come up and pool on the top. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our paint and we're going to mix it. So I say 1-to-1. I think I did 1-to-1. We'll use that to start with. So however much Cadian Flesh Tone you put, you're going to try and get the same amount after washing off your brush. And put the same amount of White Scar Now, if Games Workshop was smart and did dropper bottles, we would be able to measure, but Games Workshop doesn't do such things. I found that this is much better than using Kislev flesh. It kind of resembles the old Talarn flesh, and that's what we're aiming for. So now that I've got that, let's put my wet palette on the side, my ghetto wet palette. I'm going to paint it onto Our Lady Elf's face. Oh, sorry, so out of focus. Face and neck, if you would. Yeah, the reason I'm doing skin first is because it's like really motivating for me to start with that rather than have her with the white face the whole time. Speaking of white, you may notice that I'm working with a white undercoat, and that's because the model just, I think, is going to end up looking better with a white base coat rather than gray or black. So that is perfect. We're going to let that sit for a little while. I'm thinking of doing a whole how to paint blonde hair tutorial, but for now we'll go through it. Steel Legion drab. I still got some water on my brush from washing off the skin tone, so it's kind of, that's good. You're not just painting undiluted, painting with undiluted paints. In fact, this is like the ghetto, I'm not going to say ghetto, but this is the quick way that Games Workshop said in their latest White Dwarf how to do blonde hair. And it's not as detailed, and in my opinion, it's not as good as the way that I like to do it, but for this tutorial, it'll serve its purpose. His name was Thomas, Master. Excuse me, Igor, whose name was Thomas? This porpoise that I once served. You served the porpoise once? Yeah, I served him when I used to work at the Crypt Ghoul bar downtown. It was like Cheers, where everybody knows your name, but it was called Screams. And there's this porpoise that came in once, and I served him. I was working there at the time, you see, to pay for Crypt Ghoul College. Igor, I don't even know what you're talking about right now. Well, you said it served its purpose, and it reminded me that I once served a porpoise. Igor! Yes, Master. You stop that tomfoolery right now, son. Nobody wants to hear about your silly stories. What are we doing? We're taking our Balthazar gold and we're painting on this very ornate circlet on our nice lady elf's head. Okay, so that's pretty cool. We're also going to take our Balthazar gold and paint down here. And we'll come back to painting up more gold bits later. I think that's fine for now. Next thing is we're going to take some Castellan? No. Where is that? Here we go. And take some flesh, and we're gonna paint the back of the cloak. Now I'm painting this in the style of the heavy metal team. And this is one of the rare times that I actually don't mind the color scheme that the heavy metal team chose for High Elves especially. I usually don't like all the white, and some of the new, I give Games Workshop props for, I give them kudos for coming up with and putting an emphasis on not just sticking to the, you know, the blue and whites, but like some of the new various color schemes for the different armies, like the Trace with the lions, that red and yellow, or Eataine with the Phoenix, where it's predominantly like yellow with red accents. I mean, I think that stuff is just fantastic. Overall, though, it's like unless they're gonna do a second wave, I feel like Games Workshop kind of missed the ball on their new models. These Shadow Warriors / Sisters of Avelorn, I think, are the best ones. I've been looking at the Phoenix model. I've been looking like at the Sky Chariot things, and I am not really feeling the way that they were designed. Like their aesthetic and just the way they look to me is a little. There's just something not right about it. And I've been listening to lots of podcasts and just various people on the internet, looking at different forums like Warseer and Daka to see what they think and what their problems with it are. And it's just it's interesting to see what everybody is saying. You know, just how it's not aerodynamically sound. It's not doesn't make sense how. Like how the Sky Chariot doesn't have like a way to slow down. I think 40K Radio said that. It just looks like it has to constantly be in motion. Like the ego can't just hover, because once it does, the chariot's gonna fall down. There's no way to start slow and build up. Like you just gotta like jump off while it's in mid-flight. So yeah, I mean, not that anything in Warhammer really has to make sense and be like what it work like how it should, or else rhinos would be huge in order to carry 10 Space Marines, right? But it's just something that struck me as weird, because fantasy always seemed to me a little bit more, I don't know. What am I talking about? I don't know. Did I ever tell you that I served the purpose? Yes, Igor, you told us that. Back to this elf. We're gonna take Dryad Bark. We're going to paint her scabbard on her back, as well as her boots and her corset. Yeah, start with her boots. Oh, another thing is a lot of these models are going to be. Oh, sorry about that. A lot of these models are on like scenic bases. Like this model here is stepping up onto a stair of what looks like an old ruin with a skull in the front. There's another one that's stepping on a helmet of a dark elf, and the dark elf helmet has like a skull inside, like the guy inside was beheaded. So a lot of cool little details that I'll give you kind of a rundown on how I would paint it, but that's really like up to you. In my head, these Sisters of Avelorn are like protectors of the forest. So they're almost like wood elves. They're protectors of the Avelorn forest and the fluff. I'm really glad they brought them back. I heard that they used to be in older editions. In fact, I think when I first started playing, I didn't have the High Elves book. My friend did, but I can't remember if there was ever a model for it. I was only ever interested in orcs and goblins. Those were like my favorite. Those were my boys. Alright, there's that. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take some rust gray. This is interesting because this is not how I would paint the white, but it's building up from this kind of bluish white. And I tried it on my test model, so to be consistent I'm going to do it with all of them. You're going to kind of just paint it on the inside of any white cloth. And what you're doing with this is you are covering up any mistakes that you made with the green, any little flub ups that you did with the brown from the boots. And you're basically just kind of creating shadows that we're going to build up on. And for new painters out there, this is a cool technique. You'll definitely wanna pick up and learn. You wanna get anything that is white cloth, like the inside of the cloak, the sleeves, this is our base. We're going to build it up to a nice gleaming white, but for now. So you want to get it all in the shadows, especially. I think that's all the white. And then there's a little swatch of swatch? Is that like a Swedish watch? Igor, you're very talkative this video. Oh no, I'm sorry. Next what we're going to do is we're going to build up. Actually, before we do that, let's paint the silver. Lead Belcher. So definitely the sword and the pommel, or I guess no, what's that called? The guard, the hand guard. And also, it looks like in the Games Workshop ones, they're wearing these like gauntlets, these armored gauntlets. So that's a good thing to know, because you might make the mistake of thinking that like you have to paint their fingers in flesh colors, flesh tones, but it's actually a gauntlet. And then we're going to paint this little, what's this called, a vambrace? Not sure what that's called. But that's what we're going to do. Other side. And before we get to that, let's do these scales and these like the torso piece of her armor. I'm gonna get the little line that's right under the corset, or her leather, the leather part of her armor. These are such fantastic figures. Oh my gosh. They are so expensive, but they're so good. I've read that they're not that good in play. I don't know if that's true. It's really sad if it is. If any of you want to comment on that, I really like the look of these figures. They're so beautiful. And Games Workshop's usual policy these last few army releases are that if it's expensive, then it's good in the game. Like the Tau, the new Riptide suits and the broadsides and stuff. I mean, they are a model making company in the business of selling models, after all. And up here on the scabbard. It's the last place we're gonna paint. Hey Igor. Yes, master. What time does Sean Connery like to go to Wimbledon to watch the game? What is a Wimbledon, master? And it's like where they it's where they play, you know, tennis. And take Runefang Steel now. I don't know what that is, master. It's a game where you have like a racket and you use the racket to hit a little ball back and forth on a court. Oh, you mean like badminton? I don't even want to comment on that. Taking Runefang Steel, and we're doing the rim of this little heart jewel up here at top. And I think that is where all the silver is going to be for now. Let's take a look at our model now. Yeah, alright. So next thing we're going to do, we're going to paint flesh onto the trim of her armor. Tennis. Excuse me? That's the time when Sean Connery goes to Wimbledon, master. Tennis. How did you know that? I never told you that joke before. No, but I heard you saying it to your lady boss friend. Oh. It's funny, right? You gotta say it with the Sean Connery accent, though. Tennis. That wasn't very funny, Marsha. I'm gonna roll my eyes at you just like she did. Everybody's a critic. Alright, what we're gonna do now is take my watch off. We're going to paint the bow in Temple Guard blue. Now, when I read this in the White Dwarf, I was floored. I fell out of my chair. It's because you're a drama queen. No, it's not, Igor. It's because Temple Guard blue is like the new equivalent to ice blue. And ice blue was a highlight color. Like, there's no way you would dream about using ice blue as like the first color on something. It's just already so bright. What I would do if I had been writing the article was I would naturally assume that you would start lower, like say with Sotek green, or even as dark as Stegodon scale green, and work your way up. But I didn't, and I trusted White Dwarf, and lo and behold, it was actually pretty good that I did. Came out real nice. Right, so that's about how it should look right now. We're going to continue on, see if we can get all the base colors on, and actually going to paint a little bit more dark dryad bark onto the top of this boot. It looks like it's kind of just hanging out there. And this side, there we go. Evens it out really nicely. Okay. Go back and clean up the mistakes. Clean up any paint streaks that you see. The beautiful thing about these models, well, one of the beautiful things is just how posable, or not posable, but how good they look in their poses. Games Workshop, for picking these, static poses, which I am not a fan of, for having to do that, I think they turned out very well. They could have come out a lot worse. Like I love the Skaven models, like the Storm Vermin. I'm gonna say the Storm Vermin. I love the Storm Vermin. I feel like the Storm Vermin was more along the line of how the rest of the Skaven models, like the Clan Rats, the new Clan Rats, they just look a little bit too static, and I don't know. There's just something about the old Skaven models that you really had to build from scratch, from nothing, and give them each like their own posable stances and stuff. There's just something about that I thought was really cool. You had legs and torsos and arms, but I mean, given that those old models, they look really bad now, and they're able to do a lot more with the posability of the models. But at the time, I just thought, the new Clan Rats, they look just a little off-putting. The clasp at her neck is going to be in gold, so we're going to take our Balthazar gold. We're going to paint that up. We're also going to do gold in the pommel of the sword for the rune, or at the base of the sword for the gem surrounding the gem, and for this rune here. Now on the back side, just like Eldar, they have these like gems inset. Okay, we're also going to take the gold and we're going to paint the flames on these armor pieces here on their arms. I think I shaved down this side. I shouldn't have. Oh well. We'll paint on the design freehand. We are almost done with base coats. We'll do washes and then we'll end it there for tonight. Oh, my baby Termagant. Alright. Next we're gonna take Doombull Brown. And we're gonna paint that onto inside where the armor meets the white cloth of the sleeve. You've got a little gap. And this color is going to go right where that gap is. Both sides. It's a little flash of color. It's not going to be red. We're not going for a bright red. We're just going for a little bit of little flash of color, just like that. Now we're going to take some Abaddon Black, and this is how I do my eyes. You have to really thin your brush, really get the tip as fine as you can make it there, and just drag it along the edge of the paint in the top of your pot, like so. And then we're going to paint horizontal lines. Let's see, are we in focus, Igor? Yes, master. Okay, if you make a mistake, like I'm doing, let's also get her mouth while we're here. Also with the black, what you're going to do is you're going to get all the gems. If you make a mistake, like I was saying, just go back over with the flesh paint that you made. That mix of Cadian flesh tone and white scar. So anything that is going to end up being a gem, we're coloring in black. This is also how I do gems for my Eldar, for anybody really. We're going to get the little gap in the scabbard since she's got her sword out. We're also going to get the cloth on her back that's holding the scabbard in place. I think I'm making pretty good speed with these guys. Games Day here in Hawaii is the beginning of June. This project, formerly Project Bretonian Bowman, is clipping along really nicely. Still, I've got all my other projects going. A lot of my stuff is at my lady friend's place though, and she's on the mainland, which is why you might notice that the lighting here is a little bit different, because it's at my old place. Alright, that's gonna do it for that. So now we're gonna go back and we're gonna take that mixture that I had made of Cadian flesh and white scar, and we're just gonna retouch up the skin by the eyes. Sorry if it gets a little bit out of focus. I'm gonna have to do some surgery here. There we go. I see that her circlet on her head also has pretty big areas to attach it to. So you want to make sure you're accurate in where those are. They almost look like sideburns on this bigger circlet, like this character head here. Alright. Is that just about everything? On the chest, she's got a, or on her armor piece, on her torso, Some of them are all silver. What I like to do though is right around the heart, I like to take my Balthazar gold, and I like to paint these flames coming from the side. Ah, moth! Ah! Swarm of locusts.
Sorry.
Is that you, Festus?
I was just trying to get your attention, 'cause you haven't painted me up yet, old boss.
So you cast Swarm of Locusts on me?
That's right.
Alright. Let's leave it there for now. Washes. So we're going to do Athonian Camel Shade? Coelia Green Shade, sorry. Coelia Green Shade for all the green. For some reason, BL Tan Green, like when you see that name on the shelf, you think, oh, that's nice. It's gonna give a nice vibrant green. But it doesn't though. It really doesn't. This Coelia Green Shade really does the trick. So, get started here. Now, the trick is, what you have to remember is that shade will go down with gravity, and it will pool and leave the ugliest watermark. Hey, so I didn't realize how long this video is getting, and I guess it cut me off in my last clip. So we're just gonna finish here. Last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna give this lady some eyes so she's not all spooky looking. We're gonna use white scar for that. Take a little bit of it on the tip of our brush, and we're gonna do horizontal line within the black horizontal line. Great thing about these new models is it really gives you a nice area. They pop the eyes out just slightly more so than the older, like the Empire models or the or other models with eyes. So it allows you to do this. I call it a eyeliner technique, where you've got the black around the eye, and then the white on the inside. And take a little bit of Abaddon black now, and I'm gonna paint underneath the eye to clean that area up. And on this side, okay, and then we're gonna do just a little vertical stripe through the center. So you're gonna start from the bottom and just kind of paint up, and you want the stripe to be as close to the center, and you want it to start from the bottom and go to the top, or vice versa. If you only get it on the bottom part, then it's gonna look like he's really bug-eyed, or she's really bug-eyed. And if you only get it on the what am I trying to say? If you get one that's not in the center, then it'll look bug-eyed. So this one kind of looks a little bit bug-eyed, but what we're going to do is we're going to see if this kind of fixes it. We're going to paint Rakeland Flesh Shade. to the skin. I'm going to start with the neck down here. And this is going to give your combination of Acadian flesh tone and white scar. It's going to give it a really nice rosy kind of appearance. I think this is how I'm going to do all of my skin from now on. It's really, really good. So the eyes are still a little bit buggy, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and kind of play with them a little bit more. Last thing we're going to do while that shade dries is we're going to take some corn red and we're going to paint the gems. For just about all the gems, what we want to do is start at the bottom and paint up the right side and leave a little bit of the color before. So with this heartstone, we're leaving a little bit of the black in the upper left corner. I also want to do that for all of the gems if you can. Leaving a little bit of black will help you out later when we're painting on the little white reflective dot. But now you might notice that your silver is looking a little bit cloudy. So don't worry about that because of the Guilliman blue. The Guilliman. Don't worry about it. So that's where we're going to leave off today. So next time we're going to be painting up the whites. We're going to be highlighting everything up. And we should be finished in part 2. So thanks for watching, everybody. See you in the next one. What up, players? It's WarBossTae up in this mode. Today we're going to take a look at part 2 of the Sisters of Avelorn test model, or painting guide. I've got the girl on the left all done and ready to go. That's kind of what you've seen last night. And the one on the right is fully completed and finished kaput, so I'm kind of using it as a reference item. So, I hope you guys enjoyed it. The colors that we use are White Scar, Avedon Black, Mornfang Brown, oh not you, I'll try to sneak in there, Spoonbow Brown, Auric Armor Gold, Bugman's Gold, Rust Gray, and for the bow we use Cantor Blue, Calidor Sky, White Scar from the game set, as well as Rust Gray. And I think that was it. Yep. So that's all we're doing. Metallics wise though, we're using Iron Belt or Lead Belcher and Rune Fang Steel, just to give you a little bit of a heads up. So thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you liked the video. Leave me any questions or comments that you have. Project High Elves is going much better than I was afraid it would. I think it's going really, really well. And I'm on my way to have these girls done by the time of the competition. So thanks for watching. Really appreciate all your support, and we'll see you in the next video. Latest players! Hey guys, welcome back. We're continuing on with our Sister of Lothern here. And, oh man, since yesterday, this sword tip broke. I don't know what happened. I was just reaching over to grab something and my hand kind of brushed this sword tip and it snapped off. So I had to go back with some plastic glue and glue that sucker back on. So now I'm just gonna kind of redo it. So I'm going back on with, we're starting with Iron Breaker, but you could really, if you want, just go on to Rune Fang Steel, which is the next color we're going to use. That's only because I broke my sword. I broke my sword, oh boy. So Rune Fang Steel is the color. Today we're going to go over some awesome techniques for doing the skin, the hair, and everything else. One thing that I noticed that I think really sucks, but I think it might only be me, is that my girly man blue color, my Guilliman blue, is like it dries really weird and cloudy. So I don't know if it's supposed to be like that or if it's because my pot is old and I didn't shake it enough, but it just looks kind of sketchy. It's pants, as my friends across the pond would say. Also, I just noticed while I was gluing on this girl's sword that her chain or her scale mail down here got a little clogged up with primer, unfortunately, but that's okay. That's just a danger you have to be aware of. When priming your models, you don't want to get too much primer on it, because then it'll seep into these areas and then just kind of dry there, and then you can't remove it unless you really go in with with some green, what's it called? Not green stuff, liquid green, and kind of start from the beginning. Now with the Runefang Steel, the High Elf, these girls have this little band under their corsets on their torsos that are silver, so we're just painting over that. For the silver on like the sword, if you're doing the sword or any kind of High Elf blade, you want the Runefang Steel to be the most prominent highlight, because it's really nice and bright, catches the light and reflects really nicely. So I'm gonna go on one side, and then on the other side down here, on the top of the gauntlets, here on the front side. I think it's just my pot. I think I got a bad pot of Girly Man Blue.
I once had a bad pot of Girly Man Blue back in the 70s.
Hello, Lewis.
I didn't come down for days. It was the worst trip I ever had.
I don't even know what that means.
Don't pretend you don't know, Warboss. I know you're always hitting that pot of Girly Man Blue.
Right, the Runefang Steel is nice and reflective. It's really bright and shiny, so that'll definitely look good on everything. Next, what we're gonna do is we are going to take some Gehenna's Gold. See if I can find it. Gehenna's. Oh, I thought I just had some. Igor.
Yes, master.
Fetch me my Gehenna's Gold, please.
Alright. Also, I was only able to find a brass scorpion.
No, that's not gonna do. I wonder if I knocked it over.
There was this other time when I had a bad pot or something else.
Not now, Lewis. I think we're gonna have to stop the video for a second until I find.
Here it is.
Gehenna's Gold. This is what we're using. Now, if you don't have it, or if for some reason you couldn't find it, like I couldn't, then perfectly suitable alternative would be Shining Gold from the old range. But you'll find that when you put this on top of the Balthazar Gold that we painted in the earlier step, it goes from a reddish kind of brass. It goes from a kind of brass red to this nice, bright yellowish gold. So we're trying to hit anything that has gold on it. The great thing about these models is that they are so well sculpted that it's really easy to find the lines where you're supposed to go. Just remember to always don't use too much paint on your brush. A mistake that a lot of beginner painters make is they put too much paint on their brush. So there's when they apply it to their model, it just kind of spills and pools everywhere and just looks really, really bad and sloppy. So if you've seen my part 1, kind of showed you how I go about getting paint just on like the very tip, on the sides, not even like the tip, but like the sides of the brush and the bristles. That's really the best way to go about it. And just kind of lightly brush on the paint over and over again in a lot of small little applications like that. It's a lot better to do that than one quick all the way around. Leaves you with a better finish. Feel like you are much more talented for doing it that way, and everybody, including your little sister of Avelorn, ends up happy. Okay, now we are going to start building up on the white cloth. We're going to start with Fenrisian Gray. So let me show you what you're going to start doing first. We're going to take the Fenrisian Gray and we're going to slowly spread it on the lightest areas of the cloak, the sleeves, and any other parts. But I'm still going to leave some of that rust gray in this fold here. And in the folds elsewhere in the cloak. What that does is it creates the illusion of a false shadow that isn't really there, but when you're looking at the model, just happen to pick it up. It's a cool little visual optical illusion. So you can always start by painting it on the lighter area, and then what I call feathering or teasing the paint onto the middle areas towards the darker shades. The thing to keep in mind is that we're building up to white, so we want as much of that base color in there as possible. So now we're painting this little fold here. Usually what I did with my last Sister of Avelorn was I did 2 coats of Fenrisian Gray. You'll find that when you do more than 1 coat, it really is a good way of building up the layers, and it makes the model end up looking a lot better than if you just do 1 fast layer slapped on. Sorry about the length of the last video. It's like on like 40 something minutes for the first video, the Sister of Avelorn. Just kind of lost track of time. Okay, now you really want to get this little cloth in the midriff as well. I thought it was armor actually, but it's cloth. It's between the silver rims of the corset piece, the torso piece, as well as the little, for lack of a better word, the girdle. Here we got a little bit more to do. We're gonna start with Auric Armor Gold. I'm gonna shake this up a lot because this is gonna be the highest level of gold that you're gonna do. So it is pretty bright as well. I think with this, the reason why you want to start with Gehenna's Gold before you build up to this is because it is so bright of a yellow that it's too yellow. I think it's a little too thin all by itself. If you just paint it straight onto the model, it's a little too thin. So what I'm saying is that it would go over the Balthazar Gold, the red of the Balthazar Gold, and it won't really cover or do anything. You need that yellow of the Gehenna's Gold underneath it first, I think, to really get a good base for it. High elves, wood elves, Eldar, they all use this color. Complements their gold really nicely. At this point you may be making mistakes and getting the paint other places it's not supposed to be. If that happens, that's fine, don't worry about it. We are going to fix all of that. Okay, so now we're gonna start doing the bow before we get to the skin and the other fun stuff. Actually, before we do the bow, let's do a little bit of the white. So after you do your second coat of Fenrisian gray, you're gonna add in a little bit of white scar. And you're going to paint it onto the brightest areas. Now white scar has a tendency to pool, which means that when you paint it right onto the model, it'll clump if you're not careful. So you want to constantly be moving the brush so it doesn't have a chance to show the brush strokes and to streak. Kind of like that. Another thing you can also do is thin it on your wet palette. You get a wet palette so that it's a little bit more watery, not as streaky. Or use a flow aid or a paint retarder. Any of those techniques work. The finished goal that we're going for is where the paint goes on nice and smooth and it covers evenly. Let's try taking a look from this fold here. White Scar is a very finicky color. See, look how you can see like the paint line between the first and the second fold there. It's just going to need to be kind of addressed and covered up with future layers. You're going to have to keep layering your paint and just kind of hoping that it doesn't dry and leave a streak mark on your model. Oh, that's so ugly. So we're filling in all the gaps here. Got some on his green cloak, don't worry about it. Just keep calm and paint on. Even if you get it like on the back of their boots, that's, you know what, that's okay. Okay. Cool. Except for that one little splotch, looks pretty cool. So we're gonna add one more little swatch of white right onto the cloak. And there you go. Well, you've got the skull white out. What I did last night that you can't really see here is that I painted the commander's teeth. Alright, so now let's take a look at fixing up our model. We've got some green here on the back, so we're just going back to our base color, which is raw flesh. It's nice and green. It's not as dark as Caliban green, but it's not as light as Castellan green, which I believe is the kind of color trio for this kind of green. Okay. doing pretty good. Now what we're gonna do, we base coated the bow in Temple Guard blue. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take Calidor blue, or Calidor sky. We're gonna add some water, and we're going to add some shading. So this is another thing I've never done. I've never shaded, started at a high color tone and shaded down. I think it's a very cool thing to do. So you're just going wherever you feel the shading should be. Also, you're gonna have to eventually do some highlighting, so you don't want to shade over too much because you're gonna need to work on getting the illusion back. We're gonna let that dry for just a second, not even that long, before we go into the next one, which is Cantor blue. Cantor blue, just like Calidor sky, is going to be painted directly into the resources of Calidor sky. The great thing about this game, or this model, or this part of the model, is that all the flames look very individually realistic. They look like they could, with big quotation marks, exist, be catching this bow on fire and whatnot. There you go. The last step for this shading down is we're going to take some watered down Abaddon Black. Either do it in your wet palette, or if you have a clean water source, just kind of get some paint off the inside lid, track off some of that water. Now what we're doing is we're being very sparing with our... You don't want to show too much, so I would say kind of stick to like every other or every third little bit where the flames kind of die down. So now we're going to highlight up, and we're going to do that with a mix of White Scar and Fenrisian Gray. Fenrisian Gray and White Scar, you're going to go 2 to 1. 1 Fenrisian Gray and 2 White Scars. Mix it on the palm of my hand, and beautiful. So it's a highlight color, which means that you're going to want to start taking things out of focus just a little bit, so we don't see all the screws and hammers, unless that's what you want. Oh my gosh, what did I just say? I think I was dozing off through that whole conversation I just had with myself. I was trying to remember what I said to tack on something funny to it, and for the life of me, I can't remember. All I remember is painting this elf from the day I was born until the day I die. So it feels like when you slog through something. I know, I've been there. Help is coming, my friends. And there you have it. That's how you paint one of the spooky ghost bows. What we're going to do next is we're going to highlight up the armor, or the leather parts, with Mournfang Brown. Reason why we didn't start off with this is because over a white undercoat, the boots just shine better, nicer. They are nice with riding boots though. What? Oh my gosh, what am I talking about? I'm just painting. Let's go between this girl's legs. It's like... I can see up your pantyhose. Lewis says, did somebody say pantyhose? Oh, it's just this abandoned skull by the side of the road. Hot diggity dog. I'm gonna go upstairs and do my mission. I didn't know you was a DJ, Lewis. Eat my dubstep. I didn't know you write dubstep music, Lewis. Ah, in my dreams, it's so easy. Just get two cats fighting over an accordion. Oh my gosh, I am totally off the rails today. What am I talking about? Let's wrap it up here. There's no way I'm going to be able to get through another 5-10 minute slog of this. So thanks for watching, everybody. Let me know if you have any questions on what we've done so far. Like you've seen, we've brightened up the gold. We have done the magic bow paint. We did the whites of the armor, and we went over all the silvers. I think I said matching the yellow armor, yeah. But slowly but surely our little maiden here is getting better and better. So we're gonna sign off right now. Again, we're gonna have the two ladies kind of with each other, and we'll see you in the next video. Latest players! What up, players? It's WarBossTae up in this mode. Today we paint our Sister of Avelorn up to the standard. Here are the colors you're gonna need, in no particular order. Seraphim Sepia, XV88, Rackhearth Flesh, Warboss Green, Moot Green, Guilliman Blue, no, we use that, White Scar, Pallid Witch Flesh, Xandri Dust, Averland Sunset, and I believe that's it. Yeah. Mithril Silver. There we go. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed it. We do the sword up, we paint the lining of the cloak, we do some highlighting, and this beautiful mane of blonde hair, we do that too. So thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you in the next one. Alright, what up, players? We are going to get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go back over our girl's hair and we're going to make it blonde. So we're going to take Mournfang Brown, and I love this blonde recipe. I found it on Daka a while ago, and I did it for my dwarf blondes and gingers, like redhead videos, which you'll find in my playlists. But I haven't really done it with the new colors yet, so I was really excited to get started. Just haven't really had an opportunity, and now I'm glad I do. So this will make a really nice creamy blonde with good like bone colored accents. It's a good thing this Sister of Avelorn head has this awesome braid, so we're going to use that for a lot of it. Don't forget to get the little bangs on the sides of their heads. Alright, so along with the blonde hair, we're going to continue painting our girl up here. What are we going to do? We're going to take our Mornfang brown and we're going to go back over all the boots. Just make sure you've got everything there. I've been thinking about something. I want your opinion. I've been thinking of changing the titles of these videos from how to paint to just calling them tutorials, so people know that, like, if you're a new subscriber, you might not know what a tutorial is, or you might not know that it's just me, like, basically going from front to end with a miniature. And sometimes it's in a Games Workshop color scheme, but sometimes it's not, and that can be quite off-putting. WarBossTae green, oh yeah, my favorite color. You know, get my Micron art pen right here. Gotta do it right. Yeah. So we're going to take a big brush now and we're going to take our WarBossTae green and paint it on the cloak. So nice of you, GW, to name a color after me. Thank you very much. The danger of using a big brush like this wash brush is you don't want it to get into any of the other painted parts of the model. And I was gonna say something else of note. No, probably not. It's new. Or this Games Workshop range is really spreads really strangely sometimes. I find myself having to do more than one application of things. Whereas in the old color range, you could thin down the paint on like your color palette and then put it on, and it wouldn't separate as much. You could get a lot more done in less time. So we're leaving the washes and the cracks. We're just trying to get all the green areas. Down here as well, the trim. I think I put too much water in my green when I was putting this on the cloak. That's alright. Live and you learn. We're gonna do some little bit of highlighting now. We're gonna take Eshin Gray. Alright, the next step we're going to take is we are going to take some XV and we are going to layer onto the Mornfang brown. Now you want to kind of try to keep some of the Mornfang brown still visible. You don't want to just slap it on the whole area of hair. But overall, yeah, we are covering, because this is kind of like the base of the blonde hair. I like that we started with Mornfang Brown. I think if we started with this XV88, then it would be a little bit too much of this kind of mustardy yellow. It's nice to have that dark brown showing every so often in the recesses, but overall this XV88 is the great color that we're going to build up from. Oh, so excited. As soon as I'm done with this girl, I've got one more left, and then we'll be ready to go. How you doing with the focus there, Igor? You're doing just fine, Master. Your hair should look like that for now. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to take, we're going to go back over and make sure that all of our white is even with white scar. I'm going to paint it all over all the white areas. Yeah, so while I was getting ready, if you saw my Sisters of Avelorn, not Lothern, I don't know why I said Lothern, Sisters of Avelorn video, I had only really used the Gale Force 9 Spring Flock, but I did have a chance to go back to my other place yesterday and pick up the metal flowers. So I was experimenting with that. Oh my goodness, I was experimenting with that and I thought, oh my goodness, it looks amazing with the Spring Flock. The two of them together look really, really good. Now here's the tricky part of painting white that I haven't quite gotten yet. The whites are too bright, so you're going to need to tone them down, and what you're going to use for that is Fenrisian Gray. You're going to water it down on your wet palette, and with Fenrisian Gray you're just going to paint it into the shadows. You don't want too much because we're not looking to change the color, we're just looking to add some shadows to the white. So this part I'm still not really that great at yet. It's something I want to learn to do better. Blending to create shadows where there aren't any. But I feel like I'm getting a little bit better. Practice makes better than you were before you practiced, as they say. Okay, I think we can also finish up our gems. So we're going to take Mephiston Red here. And you're just going to paint inside the gems, inside the corn red that we painted in the last episode. Also going to take Wild Rider Red, paint inside of that. With the Wild Rider Red, what you're doing is you're going to make just like a little bit of a line on the lower right side of each gem, like this. Lower right side, lower right side. And then, if the gem is big enough, we're going to take some white scar and paint a little bit of a dot before we finish it off with some gloss varnish. And then all of our gems will be done. So only do this if you see that your gem, like this one on the back of this guy's scabbard, has the space for it. Just want a tiny little white dot to show reflection. Lastly, if you have gloss varnish, you can use that, or art coat. You're just going to run over all of the gems. Next we're going to take mithril silver. I actually don't have any Runefang steel here, but that's the current color you would use. It's the brightest silver you have. We are going to start highlighting up all the silver pieces. So the scales here for the armor. The gauntlets here. I think we might have done this in the last video, so we're just kind of going back over everything we did. Now with the sword, what you're going to want to do is create shadows. So, like painting non-metallic metal, you'd go opposite, opposite. So what I mean by that is I'm going to take some of my mithril silver. I'm going to paint it up here at the very tip of the sword that is facing the light. And then here I'm going to paint the mithril silver in the center. And I'm going to repaint it here near the hilt. So we're creating, again, we're creating false shadows. Is that the new movie with Johnny Depp? No, I think that movie is called Dark Shadow, and it was actually released last year, Igor, not this year. Oh. Well, I would know that if you let me out of the man cave more often, master. I can't do that. You eat all of the neighborhood cats, Igor. You know that. It's not my fault they're so delicious. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking Girly Man Blue, and I am just really lightly going over the opposite ends of what we painted with mithril silver. Drakenhof Nightshade would be a little bit too dark. As a glaze, Girly Man Blue is just enough. We're also going to do that on the back here. Oh, Girly Man Blue all over the back. So we're just going to take our mithril silver, and you're going to go and do the same thing. Catch the light, catch the light, catch the light. Simple effect, but for a beginner, it's very good. Alright, what can we do now that is not hair related? We'll take our Girly Man Blue, and if you ever have like a hard white line, like say, look where the torso of this girl is, meets the upper body part of the armor, and just go into it. You can also do this with a shade, but I find the glaze is a lot softer. This is just for the hard shadows, the divides between materials. Okay, gang, next we're gonna take Avelorn Sunset and mix just a little bit of it into XV88. So for this, you're gonna really need a soft palette. Soft palette, wet palette. That's a singer's term. Igor's been giving me voice lessons so I can sing pretty like him. So you get your wet palette. Mix in your Avelorn Sunset and XV88, and then you get a color that's a little bit similar to the old Snakebite Leather, except a little bit more of a yellow tone. I'm gonna start highlighting at the hair. So the Sisters of Avelorn, and most GW models nowadays, characters with hair have their hair sculpted on rather than just being a big fat mop like they used to do in the 90s. And what that means is that as painters we have a lot more opportunities to do these highlights. So you can choose which part of the hair the sun is reflecting off of and then highlight that area more than others, or do other cool tricks like that. Next, we're going to add a small amount of Rackheart flesh. In the old recipe, you're going to be adding Commando Khaki, but because we don't have that anymore, Rackheart flesh is the closest thing we have. And the trick of highlighting hair is you want to start at the middle of the highlight you just did and try to keep in the center of it. This way you get very natural looking highlights and it doesn't look like you're just slapping paint on the model. It's all optical illusion. You know, when somebody's looking at your model from across the table, he'll see these individual strokes, and his eye will pick up the difference because of the shading we're about to do, and because we're still leaving a lot of the color that we used previously underneath. It says to add Deneb stone to the mix, and since we don't have that, we're going to use the next best thing, which is a little bit of Xandri dust mixed in with pallid witch flesh. So you're going to take all these colors and mix them together. So that's why it's really good to have a wet palette nearby. Because if you're doing this all on like a napkin or on your painting table, then it would dry out almost, you know, immediately after you're done using it. find the highlight color you just did, the step previous, and only work in those lines. I want the illusion that the sun is shining right on this center part of the hair, where the hair bunches up right here in the center. So I'm gonna pay a little bit more attention to highlighting that part. Right here. Now it says we're going to add a little bit more Deneb stone, so we're going to do the same thing we did. Xandri dust and pallid witch flesh. Of course, if you have the old Deneb stone, that would work best. Next, we're going to add straight white scar. There's no real ratio on how much you need to add to each mix. It's kind of like to taste, you know, you do it until you're happy with it. So if it's not bright enough, add more. If it's too bright, then go back a step and don't add as much. Great, like this head reminds me of a lion's mane. The great thing is that all this hair is sculpted, but you're really adding to it with these highlights. Now we're gonna let that dry for just a second. For our bow, we're gonna take some Girly Man Blue and we are going to wash the bow with it. This is something that I found halfway doing my sister's, is that what this does is it really ties the white in nicely. It gives everything a very cohesive sheen and also makes it a little bit more dark, which I think is better than bright blue witch fire. And there you go. Easy peasy. Next we're gonna take a brush and some moot green, and we're gonna highlight the cloak. Starting with the ridges in the back, the highest points. Just gonna work our way around. You don't want to completely cover all the colors before, like the WarBossTae green or the Wa flesh, but this is gonna go on pretty evenly over everything. It might look bright to you, but we're gonna tone it all down in a little bit with some washes, or some shades, I mean. What am I talking about? Not the shade, the glaze. We did the shade. The face is the focal point of any model, so you want to make sure you pay particular attention to it. Especially when you've got a model like a girl model like this, and unhelmeted heads of any kind of model. People tend to look at the face almost immediately, so you want to create a good impression with that before they start looking at everything else. Okay, so now we're going to take, where is it? Seraphim Sepia. We're going to wash the hair. We're going to wash that sepia into the hair. Oh yeah! Get first place at the painting contest. Now we're gonna let that dry because that looks really awesome. And while we're waiting for the green to continue to dry, we're gonna do the lining of the cloak with raw flesh. So you're just gonna take a thin line and run it down the side. I like to put a little elven rune at the bottom, so I'm gonna do that now. And then just do the same thing, running along the bottom of the cloak. The thinner, the better, so use whatever tricks you have. Like, one of the tricks I like to do is, after dipping my brush into the paint, I will wipe it off, and while I'm wiping it off, just kind of focus it into a nice sharp tip. You just want to find your way around the legs, between all the folds. Then if you've got an open cape like this on this side, you just retrace the rune. You always want to orient to the bottom as well, so you don't want to go flat according to the base, but go to the bottom of the cloak if you can. If you're not sure about elven runes, just look up Chinese or Egyptian characters. That's what they all seem to be like. Elven runes borrow heavily from those. Once you've got your initial runes out of the way, you're going to take White Scar and just tidy up the sides. Especially the bottom of the cloak. You'll notice that it gets all wonky in there, so you just want to get in there and you're kind of like stabbing in through the back to get there, but not many people are going to notice that, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. And there you have it, your little runes and the lining of your cloak. If you want to go back with WarBossTae green, that's a good way to add some highlighting to the line. Actually, I should have done this before, so that if you make a mistake, you can clean it up with the white scar. It's not exactly the same. I think I put a little bit too much at the top here, so just... There we go.